Warning: the following program may contain material not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
Viaducts unknown, our voice begins to rise, breaking through the noise with fire in its eyes. The spirit of adventure burning ever bright. Hold on tight, travelers, it's gonna be a ride. Another week burning, halfway to the end. Bonus Overdrive Wednesday, let the tears descend. Bonus Overdrive Wednesday, night is here. Shatter the silence, conquer all your fear. Bonus Overdrive, the angels gonna scream. With Diego at the wheel, living out a dream.
It's time to find out with Diego. Let's go. Ooh, yeah.
On this episode of Bonus Overdrive Wednesday, for over 20 years, our guests have consistently delivered a brutal barrage of the heaviest hits metal has ever heard. No fluff, no filler, no compromise, just pure rhythmic devastation from the Metalcore titans of Washington, D.C. Brace yourselves. We are now entering the Age of Ruin. All this plus more. Please welcome our new friends and first-time guests. This is Age of Ruin. My friends, welcome to Bonus Overdrive Wednesday.
Thanks for having us. I'm Daniel. I play guitar in the band. This is Hendrik on drums behind me.
Excellent, and I really appreciate you guys hanging out with me on this fine day. We're going to talk heavy metal. We were just having a great conversation on the pre-interview, how we may have crossed paths many years ago because we were talking about great places to play in the Nova area, and we talked about Jax. And it was actually, Jax was the last show I ever watched. It was 2010, because I've seen a lot of bands there. I mean, I've seen Wasp, Sabotage, Lizzie Borden, goes on and on, Testament, and I think I saw Demo Bagheera there a long time ago. Times change, venues change as well, but I was doing a lot of internet trolling, which is the main thing I do on this show, to find information and find guests. And you guys popped up for some reason real quick, and I got in there. I said, I got hooked from the first song. So I got to have these guys on. So here we are, Age of Ruin. Thanks again for being on the show. And I know that the band has a very long history. We're going about around 20 years, correct?
Yes.
And if I do my calculations correctly, my math is completely bad, but I'm going to say early 2000s, but the roots and the soul of what inspired you came from probably 90s and 80s music, correct?
Well, the band really truly formed in 1998, but we were young. I mean, it formed right out of high school, and our bass player was actually still in high school in his last year when we formed. So we didn't really get out and start playing until 99, 2000 was the first year. And then 2001 was the first tour that we booked and went on. So by then we had a full-length album out, and we were about to put an EP out on a label out of North Carolina called Tribunal Records. So, but yeah, I think your observations are astute. You know, we draw a lot of inspiration from the new wave of Swedish heavy metal that was coming in the 90s. Carcass, At the Gates, early Dark Tranquility, and then In Flames. And those two bands shared members. They, the singer for In Flames, and I think the singer for Dark Tranquility changed bands or something very early on. But that was something that we drew a lot of inspiration from, but also the hardcore scene. And that's where I connected with Hendrik and some of the other guys that we still play with today, is through hardcore and punk rock. So we're a metal band, but we were a metal band that played in the hardcore scene a lot. But it's interesting you bring up that venue Jax, because in addition to seeing, I must have been at some of the shows you mentioned. I think of like Iced Earth I saw there, and Also, Soil Work, In Flames were there. But man, in addition to that, we saw a whole lot of local bands,
Yeah.
including Hendrix band play there. And it was just it was a cool, juxtaposition of that scene of metal that's coming through. And Jax was a really good home for them, for those bands. And then also bands that were trying to kind of learn the ropes and get out and do their own thing. So there's a lot of there's really cool places. There's another venue that we talk about when we talk about the old days. There's a place up in Wheaton, Maryland called Phantasmagoria. I don't know if you remember that place, but there was a lot of metal bands that would come through there too. Um, the pandemic caused a lot of venues to it forced a lot of venues to close. I think Jax was probably closed a few years before that, but certainly many that were around during that time shut their doors. Understandably, it was, I mean, a tough time to stay open when your business is operating under having to be close to with people, right? So, um, but I think some of these newer venues that are popping up are pretty cool. We're seeing things that blend different types of media. Like we were just talking before we started recording. There's a place in West Virginia, but several of these different businesses that are starting like this, where it's like an arcade, and all the games are free if you pay to get in. So it's kind of like a Dave and Buster's sort of idea, but they'll have a stage and bands will play, and we're really excited about playing places like that. There's one in Fredericksburg that opened up called Reclaim Arcade. Um, there's a couple of these I've heard. I think there's one in Lynchburg as well. And another idea that is not new, certainly has been around for a while, but we're seeing skate parks, places that are indoor skate arenas that will have shows. And certainly that's not a new concept. I remember Woodbridge, Virginia, there was a place, was it the Vans? Maybe Vans owned that place.
Yeah.
Or franchise it somehow. But there was, and they would have shows too, and bands would play. And so we're seeing a lot of those different opportunities where it's the kind of a crossover of music with another reason to go out. Um, it's probably a combination of just so much different entertainment that people have, Netflix and HBO at home, all these different things that you can watch at home, has, I think, forced a lot of different of these businesses outside to try to entice people to come in different ways, other than just food and alcohol, which are kind of, you should expect that anywhere anyway, right? So
Yeah. So now you can probably, have a meal and catch a show. Now, no better show to watch than Age of Ruin, of course. The way things are have changed in so many years. And I know that during the band's history, well, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself because when the band first formed and then you had an album out, what, about a year later or within a year and a half or so?
yep, I would say about that. We self-released our first record at the end of 1999 into 2000. I think it actually was printed in 2000, so that sounds right.
And during that time, of course, you were definitely touring, having all these shows. And during the timeline, before we get to today's time, there was a bit of a hiatus.
Yeah.
And it could be for any reason. We don't have to get definitely personal, but with hiatuses, either some members start different projects or, they have families, career change. It could be anything like that. But then reforming, you guys came back more awesome than ever. What I don't want to ask what caused the bit of a pause, but what brought you back then?
I'll tell you exactly what it was. Was in 2016 and 17, I started playing guitar with uh, the guy that played drums in Age of Ruin at the very beginning, with no intent to start to rekindle the band. It was really just to write some songs and have some fun. And as we started piecing the songs together, and we brought then the other bass player, who was also one of the original members of the band, Christopher, we realized it was really kind of just sounded like Age of Ruin, and we wanted to kind of continue to pursue that. Um, that was right before the pandemic, and then that disrupted a lot of things. And so after the pandemic, we wanted to keep moving, and that's when we met up with Hendrik, and really, I would agree with what you said. I think this band is way stronger now than it ever was. Um, the only reason for really sticking with the name at that point was just that it felt like the same band. It felt like we had just like we never skipped a beat. We just picked up and started writing the same songs. And the idea of being able to re-record a few of the older ideas was exciting too. So it just sort of made sense. And time passes pretty quickly sometimes. I think um, it was 2008 or 2009 when Age of Ruin, stopped playing shows, but it wasn't intentional. We never said like let's break up. It just happened. I started playing in a band called Damnation AD, which was a band that I really had loved when I was growing up and learning how to play guitar. Um, Slightly older than me, and that was about that same time. Other members took on other projects too, just like you were saying. Real life, some of the guys in the band have children, and that caring for other family members has come and been something that's been a challenge that we've had to face. Not a challenge that we didn't want, to take on. But it's certainly any band that is going to take on this duration, this length of time. It's very difficult to do that unless it's the sole provider. If you're making income from it, and everybody is able to do it at that level. Otherwise, the band member changes are kind of natural. Um,
Yeah. And we're gonna get into today's history with Age of Ruin, but I'm gonna ask you a question, Hendrik, because you've been in the music scene for a while now. What was life for you prior to Age of Ruin?
What do you mean? Like, what was like? I played in a bunch of different bands. Is that what you mean?
Yes.
Sure. So I've known Daniel from just playing locally and meeting people and joining bands and connecting, whether it's punk music, metal music, grind, hardcore, kind of open to all different types of music and styles and stuff. And played locally since high school, you know. We connected and started showing me some of the songs and stuff, and it was a strong connection that we had. It's something I really enjoy doing.
Another thing that's great about Hendrik is he play guitar. So he plays guitar in a band right now called Treble Lifter, and I'm not a very good drummer, but I learned enough to learn beats so that so I can understand the instrument. It makes it really good, I think, to work with you because of his ability to understand the strumming of a guitar, like what that instrument is trying to do to match the beats that work really well.
We do focus on the songwriting a lot, like the outcome of everything, rather than just the individual drum parts or guitar parts necessarily. I think that definitely helps.
Yeah, so it kind of brings a mutual respect for each other's artwork in a sense. Now, being that the form of music can be quite challenging, especially for a drummer, cardio.
For
Did
sure.
you, how hard it is to maintain that? I mean, I'm assuming that the shows that's about an hour and a half, or a place, or when you go out there and play. So how do you keep in shape for that?
We practice a lot, and then I practice a lot personally, and just giving it a lot of intensity every time we do play and putting all heart into it. That's how we're gonna come across and put on the best show.
It's a normal day at work for you, so that's fine because no, you guys are doing a great job. Which let's jump now to today because
It's an interesting point. I would just get because we actually just came out of the rehearsal studio just from band practice, and we actually do talk deliberately a lot about just individual hits or notes, and making sure that every instrument is the accompaniment is there. If there's a guitar solo and the other guitar player is playing a solo, let's say, then it's important that we back off a bit so that stays up front, but not like lose the heart of the song. Um, but also to, like, the cardio that goes on. Um, Certainly, he's carrying the lion's share of it. Their singer has to push a lot of air. It a lot of that goes into the decision making when you put together a set list. We want it to be as high energy as it possibly can be so that the show is entertaining and fun for everyone. We want to have fun, but we have to make sure that there's, uh, he's not just running in place for 3 songs in a row. We got to make sure that there's something that makes sense. So that's something that we certainly put a lot of thought into. Make sure there's enough time to drink water between songs, and stuff like that. So.
Having dynamic songs helps too.
It's a great strategy. You gotta give each other a rest. Kind of, I think in the old days, sometimes they do they still have drum solos now? Because I used to love those. And then everybody takes a break. Somebody comes in, there's a guitar solo, drummer takes a break, singer takes a break. It's a whole beautiful thing. That's the thing about heavy metal, man. It's just it's something about it, man. I've been listening to it now since I was like 5 years old. That's a long time ago. I'm not to give away my age, but now in today's time, normally when a band takes a big pause, some bands do great coming back. Some bands can't recapture that magic they had once before. Definitely, you guys did not suffer from that. How did you keep the spirit going? Because you have not lost anything.
You have any thoughts on that, Hendrik?
I think that sometimes, I think for us, a lot of what we focus on is the fun part of it. Getting together and just making music and doing like what we want to do musically, and just being very aware of what we all want to do, and we started writing these songs and started having these ideas and just kind of bouncing ideas off each other, and it just got really exciting. It's like, oh, playing these songs in front of people, what's the next thing?
I think and I can hear it in you telling your stories, Diego. We just love music. We love what it's. Um, some people are drawn to video games. Some people are drawn to gardening. Some people are drawn to whatever your passion, your hobbies are. This is what we love to do, and it's just we hear things like maybe a little differently. When we go to see a band play, sure we love the entertainment aspect, but a lot of times we're taking notes. Like, oh, what's that guy doing? I think I want to pull it. So you draw from some of that inspiration, and um, it's also just this ambition that I know personally. Um, I I really want to play the guitar. This is what I really want to do, and I want for people to be able to hear it, so that that drives me to market it and get into the business side of it. And then we have to make sure that we're performing live so that we can potentially meet some new people that have never heard the band that we might convince to become a listener. It all goes into it, and once you realize how much work you got to put into it, the only way we can do it is if it's fun, because we're not making millions of dollars playing these songs, so it's got to be fun.
Same here. I'm making $0, but I do it for the love of the art.
It's
And
a huge reward at the end of the day. When I would say this to any other musician, young bands, whatever, you put that record out, once it's out, that's a huge accomplishment. uh you know After that, a lot of the hard work begins of trying to market it. None of us are salesmen. That's not what we've wanted to do. That's kind of what you have to do to sell your music, is to convince people, you've got a limited amount of time in your day to listen to music, and I want you to compel you to choose 3 or 4 minutes and listen to an hour song. That's a big ask, and so it becomes somewhat of a sales job in a way. Um, but you find fun ways to do that, and you share the excitement and the energy that we've got, and what the cool things we're doing while we're doing it, and all the fun bands we're meeting on the road, and the opportunities we get along the way. It makes a good story. But it's really just make, and in order to do that, boy, we got to take care of ourselves. We have to make sure and take care of each other. You see when somebody's uh, feeling fatigued, or you can just see that in each other because we know each other so well. Hey man, I need to come in, pitch hitter right now. The guy behind the merch table obviously is suffering, so you jump in and you just help each other out. It makes it a lot easier. It becomes a family, you know.
You stole the words out of my mouth. It's not only a business, it's not only a band, it's also a family. And we all like to take care of each other. You know, we're in our own bubble. Want to make sure we're all doing well. And if we can go back in time, because we're you were talking about the love of playing your chosen instrument, and it's gonna be one of those real generic questions somebody would ask a band. I'm gonna be guilty of that right now because now I'm curious as to who inspired you to pick up that guitar and who
Slash,
inspired you to start playing drums.
slash. I got Appetite for Destruction in the fourth grade, and I had to pick up a guitar after that. That was it.
Monster album. I love that album.
It was Dave Grohl.
Nirvana.
Yeah, seeing him smash the drums, I was like, oh man.
And being around so long, I mean, as I've been around for a long time and not in the music scene, but as appreciation of the music scene, because there's a difference. And you're all being accomplished musicians. Metal, especially, has been kind of like a Richter scale for the last 30 some years. Is up, is down, is up, is down. The 90s, we got kicked in the balls a little bit. And then, but things kind of went back to the way they're supposed to be, back to the underground. Europe was putting out these massive festivals. These great bands were still playing. The US was a little bit behind on some things. It started picking up. How is the music scene? What is the landscape looking in today's time? Because I know you're out there, you're putting in the work. How is it looking?
You know, there's always good and bad in it. I mean, so back then, there was no way to really get your music into stores, you know, into Tower Rec. It's hard. There would be like a local section, and sometimes a Tower Record or Sam Goodyear, they might have an employee that was a curator of a punk or metal section. Um, so now that it's very democratized, as they say, anyone can record at home. You can have a studio in your home, and anyone who can afford the equipment can produce a song and put it out. And I'm saying everything outside of AI for this too. Of course, anybody can create an AI song, right? And that's even let's for now we're getting into another story. But now the different challenge is not that you can't get your music out; it's that everyone can. And so you're nothing but a drop of water in an ocean of other musicians. I think that's a really good problem to have personally, because I think, as we've seen, it's raised the bar for musicians. All of us have to work harder to make the music sound better, to edge your music a little, and you learn more, right? You learn mixing techniques, you learn different ideas from other musicians that way, and collectively, all of us are growing to be better. Like every other band is becoming better and better. That's a that's a sweet problem to have, right? Um, but it certainly poses a challenge because we want our music to be heard too, and now we are just a small fish in a giant pond. Um, Certainly, the economics of the world drive a lot of that too. It's very expensive to be a musician today compared to just like gas prices are
Hmm.
3 or 4 times what they were 20 years ago when we were, touring. I mean, our first tours, we were paying $1 a gallon.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen today. And the same thing is true of stopping to get food, lodging, all of that. It's just more expensive. But on the flip side, the quality of the equipment that younger musicians can purchase today is so much higher. We went to a local show last night, heard some hardcore bands that did this pop-up show at a skate park yesterday, and they had these tiny PA speakers. I'm not exaggerating. They were probably the size of my head, and they were loud enough, and a show like that you couldn't have even carried the PA speakers to the skate park uh, to be loud enough for what they were doing. So, I think there's pros and cons that are always out there, and it's just a matter of trying to um, swim in your lane and catch the current um, and yet still be unique and stand out amongst everything else. But
Yeah.
but it's really not. And as much as I say that, I don't find it to be that challenging or that difficult. We're playing the music we want to play. We're having fun. We make sure that what we're doing is dialed in so that it's good for everyone else. And in that, we don't, like, all of us are turning our volumes to the right levels, and we make space where it's needed, and we're, friendly and kind and nice, and we show up early and all of that. But it's all part of doing what we want to do, and it doesn't sound, it sounds like it's harder than it is, but we're just doing what we love to do.
And there's an added advantage with the technology of today because I know you talk about AI, and that's a whole different. Some people love it, some people hate it, sacrilege, and then people are. I seen that. I was a following late at night. I'm watching the comments on the social media. It's kind of fun to read them, but that's a long, long story. We want to talk about that. Added advantage: you guys can record whenever you want to. You can make your own music videos. You can actually have a further reach because somebody probably from Romania or Australia, anywhere in Europe, can discover your band just by clicking a button on social media, and boom, that's how I found you. And I'm glad that I did. And now that we're in 2026, 2025 went by so fast, man, that it's almost time to start going out there and start playing some more shows. I know you just got out of rehearsal, you're putting the act together and take it on the road. Where are you going to be at in 2026 so far?
Okay, we have a few shows lined up so far. We've got the first one is next Saturday. We're playing in Washington D.C. at the Pocket. 1 week later, we're in Salisbury, Maryland at Lurking Class Skate Shop, which I was mentioning, skate shops being one of those. Our guitar player is going out to the NAMM show in California for a week. So anyone that's out at NAMM can meet Casey. He's doing a couple of performances out there, but he'll also just be out hanging out. And then a week after that, we play in Alexandria, Virginia. Then we have a show in Richmond with Filth. So some of these shows are starting to pile, or they haven't been entirely announced yet either. So everything I've said so far has been announced. The day before we play Richmond, we're playing out in West Virginia at that pinball place. That one has not been announced. Then we got some stuff that's in the books, not entirely firmed up. So the plan is to go to Puerto Rico towards the end of the spring. We got some dates on the East Coast that we're going to do, and then we're looking at the summer to do a longer tour.
Wow, man, that's my old stomping grounds, Puerto Rico. We'll talk about that. I'll tell you some good tourist places to go to and some good food to eat. So it won't cost you too much money, at least the food won't.
Looking for food, believe me.
And now,
La comida.
la comida. Eat some tostones and empanadas, you'd be good. Now, if I were to hang out with you one day, or let's just say I'm a fly on the wall in the tour van, the RV, the bus of Age of Ruin, and it's a long trip. It doesn't matter who's in charge of the tape deck. What's playing?
Oh boy, we actually have. It's funny you say that. The band has on Spotify. We have our own playlist that we maintain. We do it and we share it out to the public. It's Age of Ruin Picks you can find it on our Spotify page. But we actually keep that curated for ourselves. We share it out to everyone else so that if you're a fan, you wanted to see what we listen to and where we draw our inspiration from, you can do that. But there's a lot on that list. Everything from old hardcore like Converge and Coalesce and Botch to newer stuff. Sleep Token is on that list. The new Megadeth track that they just dropped a couple weeks ago for the new record. There's a big,
Some local favorites, a bunch of stuff.
yeah, big spread of stuff. So that would be the best place to hear exactly what we're listening to, and we keep it maintained, so it's always fresh. So there's probably like somewhere between 120 or 130 songs maybe total.
Yeah, that sounds right.
And we try to once a week or so, maybe 2 weeks, we remind each other, hey, let's make sure we add a couple. So I'll add 2 songs, he'll add 3 songs, Ben will add a song, whatever. And then we'll push some of the older stuff that's on the list off so that we're always keeping it fresh, unless it's something we just can't stop listening to. So that would be the best place to check it out. So it's under our Spotify page. Age of Ruin Picks is that playlist that we maintain, and it's also so that I listen to it. Maybe I go on a jog and I listen to it. And I'm like, man, and I find that's how I find new music. It's like, dude, who put that on there? And because we tend to have similar tastes, although a little different. But that's it. I find that's a really great way to just keep fresh with new music too. Going to shows and hearing other bands, that's an outstanding way to get exposed to new music. But otherwise, it's your friends. It's like, hey man, what are you listening to? And
That's how we used to do it.
It's today's mixtape. Back in the day, we used to make mixtapes and just trade
Yeah.
them. The underground had a lot of bands that had like these demos, but get
yeah,
it to your friends' hands, and that's the way it went.
mixtape, and then next thing you know, it's a CDR, mix CD.
Yeah, they went to Napster, and there was a whole thing. But now I'm glad that everything's legal now. Everybody's getting credit they deserve, although I think they deserve a little more money for these downloads. So that's, of course, another hot button topic to be talked about in the future. And now comes to my favorite part of the song, also for their friends, the listeners of Bonus Overdrive Wednesday. We get to play actually one of your songs, and this one, Ghosts We Carry. And I've been listening to that. And can you give us a little look as to what that song means to Age of Ruin before we go?
Yeah, sure. It's part. It's kind of an anthem, like anthemic sort of song to us, in that it's got lines in and about like taking on the battles ahead. Pick up your sword and shield, head out on the battlefield, that kind of thing. The chorus is very much about being sort of enclosed in and breaking free. And it's to us, it's really like that quintessential metal, like, I don't want to say fight song, but kind of like that, like rally song. It's like something you would think like, let's get out on the football field and charge, kind of feeling. And we love it. It's just like, it gives me goosebumps playing it. It's like a real like high energy song.
Today's metal anthem brought to you by Age of Ruin. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being on Bonus Overdrive Wednesday. Much luck to you in 2026. And I'll be seeing you at your shows because I know you're playing pretty close to where I'm at. And thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks for having us on. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
This is Ghost We Carry by Age of Ruin on Bonus Overdrive Wednesday right now.
Watch this candle burn, dancing in the darkness. Eyes watch from all around, waiting for something. Ashes falling down, touching all the heartless. Silence has found its sound. Help me! Is there no way out? I've gone too
All content on this broadcast is a property of Diego the Podcaster and is served directly from our servers with no modification, redirects, or rehosting. All celebrity impersonators are paid performers. The impersonated celebrities do not endorse or promote any views or opinions expressed by our guests, Diego the Podcaster, or Bonus Overdrive Wednesday. The information shared on Bonus Overdrive Wednesday is provided on an as-is basis, with no guarantees of completeness, accuracy, usefulness, or timeliness.